Wherever you are, welcome to News Tonight with me, Nana Abba Anamwa. Good evening to all of you. Thanks for joining us for the News Tonight. Coming up are the headlines. The Bureau of Public Safety warns of more air disasters if the Ghana Civil Aviation Authority is not checked. We'll find out why. The divorce is complete. Stonebwoy exits Xylophone Media amidst gunshots barely a year after jumping onto the latter's artist management wagon. And in some other news, Sierra Leone's presidential election results too close to call. We'll bring you the latest from the ground. Let's quickly look at our first story for tonight. The Bureau of Public Safety is blaming the Ghana Civil Aviation Authority for the latest air incident involving Starbow Airline. The Bureau is convinced the GCAA was unprofessional in the discharge of its duties. This is contrary to the sector minister's findings, which blame the airline's poor management and bad weather. The Bureau insists the investigators' inability to fault the GCAA puts more air passengers at risk. All right, let's quickly go to Skype now and talk to Nana Yao Akwada. He's the Executive Director for the Bureau of Public Safety, which is asking authorities to keep the GCAA in check, else we'll be recording some more disasters. Thank you for joining us, Nana Yao. How did you arrive at this conclusion that the GCAA was unprofessional and should have been faulted in that investigation?
Well, a very to your viewers, and thank you. After the minister has made a presentation to Parliament, we combed the secure a copy, which we have actually asked the ministry to have a copy, and like we do all. While we were waiting for them to be able to lay hands on a copy, going through the report, we see that the findings of the investigative committee were not in sync with their conclusions, recommendations that we gave at the end of the report. Combing through the report, we observed that the last certification inspection conducted by the GCAA for this particular craft did actually uncover that there was an existing airworthiness directive.
All right, Nanaya, I'm afraid I have to cut in rudely, and call you back because we're having challenges with that Skype line. But we'll get back to you shortly to get exactly why your organization feels that the GCAA was unprofessional in its dealing in giving the public that finding for the Starbow Airline disaster recently. But in the meantime, as we try to get hold of Nana Yao, let's look at a story right here in Accra in Dansoman, because two of the most busy intersections, one of them in Dansoman, another one somewhere in Accra, have no functioning traffic lights, a situation road users say can cause serious fatalities if the problem is not addressed immediately. Here's a report by Caroline Agbenyanu.
This is Dansoman Junction, popularly known as Hansonic, one of the busiest roads in Accra. It stretches to several business communities like Weja, Kaneshi, Kasua, Winneba in the central region. The problem with this road are the traffic lights. They have been dysfunctional for the past 4 months. Sometimes the police intervene by directing traffic, but when fatigue sets in, Dansoman Junction becomes chaotic.
I had only a main road from Odoko to Winneba Road, the traffic was Dansoman Junction Hanomono. Enye juma be 4 months ni a traffic ko off enye juma police for no so ba be gina no men di be 5 minutes crap no ma fi ha no no mo ko accident nye sipe no ma ba be gina susu ansa no ma freto inka abetwe oida say o ma betwe wi kra say komo direct no ma say ja ho no mo ko ntina ma
accidents are rife and not even the police is safe.
Ano be 7:30 and accident see wa ha na na tebia kaza police for na ke be from say come bla hantem is about 7:30 police ni bia ni ha a problem because ha pressure no odin it no anka 6 o'clock police for wa ha na mo a ke be boa ma accident no anu abrase ba no pa e see na police ni bia ni ho Benz bi ne pick up bi and crash here.
In the case of Nungwa Barrier, the situation is worse. The main intersection links communities like Tema, Spentex, Sakumono, and Teshi. However, there is no traffic light here. The situation could best be described as a jungle where the drivers fight for space, and this puts lives in danger.
If you say woman be more inside wabesi anopa okwaduma opemfo okwaduma ka bono agis kra wan kebi owu ye nti sempanyfo tia mo beye zebra crossing anase mo beye traffic light awo barrier mo nani manase bisa abebua.
And I'm sure you've also chanced some intersections that have no traffic lights or have traffic lights but are very faulty. Just draw our attention to those faulty traffic lights. Now, in other news, government has denied media reports that it did not give adequate notice to neighbor shops around the president's Nima residence. A statement signed by the information minister indicated adequate compensation has been paid to the affected shop owners from the president's personal account. Here are excerpts of that statement, and it's coming up shortly on your screens.
Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo becoming president of the Republic, there was a taxi rank, an artisanal shop and traders operating in front of his house after being declared winner of the 2016 election and before the president swearing in on 7th January 2017, the taxi drivers on their own volition moved their operations away from the president's residence, realizing the implication of the operations for the security and safety of the president. In view of the security implication of the operations of the traders and artisans, national security proceeded to engage with them and compensation packages of varied sums were agreed on. President Akufo-Addo has taken the view that the national purse should not be burdened on a matter such as this and has gone on to pay their compensations from his personal resources. A group of artisans describing themselves as the junior masters who were not beneficiaries of the initial compensation in a letter to President Akufo-Addo dated 25th February 2018 appealed to the president to be included in the compensation package, a request to which the president has accepted. It is important to note that extensive consultations were undertaken between the Office of the President, National Security, and the traders and artisans before the implementations of this decision. It is completely false that only a week's notice was given to the traders and artisans to move from their current location. Indeed, the leadership of the artisans and traders requested for a 6-week grace period from national security beginning from the last week of January 2018 to enable them move. Clearly, this request has been met. The national security is continuing with the engagement process in order to ensure that their movement is done in a manner that accommodates their welfare as citizens of Ghana.
All right. So that was the release from the Information Ministry reacting to the media reports about the president's neighbors who were not given enough notice. Now, let's go back to our earlier story. I was telling about the Bureau of Public Safety blaming the Ghana Civil Aviation Authority for the latest incident involving Starbow Airline. The Bureau said that it is convinced that the GCAA was unprofessional in the discharge of its duties. Let's go to the Skype once again to talk to Nana Yaw, Joao Akwada, who is the Executive Director of the Bureau of Public Safety, and he's joining us right now. Now, so just to ask the question once again, I'm sure you remember what the question was. How did you arrive at that conclusion that the GCAA was unprofessional in its dealings?
Well, let me say that unprofessional is not our words. I believe in our press statement we did not use unprofessional, but we did allude to situations that pointed in that direction. I agree. We have said that the findings that the investigative committee made in their report and then eventual causal factors that they outlined and contributory factors are not in sync with what they found. And that we want to point out. The Ghana Civil Aviation Authority, at the time of certifying the aircraft to take off 8 days before that accident, they knew that the captain's seat was not in compliance with aviation standards, at least for that model. And for that matter, they had to ensure that that seat was fixed in accordance with the Airworthiness Directive, which was issued by the European Aviation Safety Agency as far back as December 2016. The Ghana Civil Aviation Authority failed in that direction. And we believe that that alone was the trigger factor that necessitated this accident.
Okay.
Had the Ghana Civil Aviation ensured that these seats were fixed appropriately in accordance with the directive that was issued by the European Aviation Safety Agency, we would have prevented this accident. That's
okay.
Number one.
Now,
number two.
All right. No, go ahead.
Number two, the aviation minister in Parliament, when she was reporting, indicated that weather was also a contributing factor. The facts as outlined in the report does not point in that direction, except for when they were doing their conclusion, they just indicated there that the rainstorm affected the airfield during takeoff.
Right.
We, at that point, we knew that other aircrafts were taking off, so it could not hold water that Starbow aircraft could not have taken off. If it were affecting the airfield, then they should have grounded all flights. Taking all of these things in perspective, and the committee finished with the report, they made recommendations for the operator, in which case is Starbow. They failed to make recommendations for the Ghana Civil Aviation in relation to the two issues that I have mentioned, that they should oversee or they should ensure that airworthiness directives are complied with to guarantee safety. And then number two, if we had weather issues, every flight that takes off at the Ghana Civil Aviation is cleared by air traffic control to take off. So at what point did the weather deteriorate? Because weather happen. It's a process. There is a cumulus stage. There are other stages that it goes to before it deteriorates. At what point did the weather deteriorate? And at what point did air traffic control grant clearance? If we don't work urgently on this to fix this issue with the Ghana Civil Aviation, we are sitting on a dangerous time bomb, and we will witness some disaster in the near future.
Okay, so basically all you're saying is that once we were told that the poor management of Starbow Airline and the weather were responsible for that incident are misleading.
It's very misleading.
Okay.
Very, very misleading. And I think that the misleading alone is not the issue, but the fact that the regulator has been allowed to do things anyhow and have its own way. No one is committing it to
who should keep the civil aviation in check?
Well, the civil aviation, the whole world over, the ICAO sets minimum standards for the civil aviation, every country's civil aviation.
Right.
But the authority itself, that's why in every country is an authority. It is governed by rules And those rules, whenever they are found to be faulty, the society, in advanced societies, they all rise up to push for the right thing to be done, such as what we are doing and what the network is also availing its airtime for. So we push the Civil Aviation Authority to do what it must do. And let me say also, we have taken steps to write to the International Civil Aviation Organization to inform them of this, let me call it malpractice or misconduct.
Have they responded? Have they responded?
Not yet. We just sent the email early this morning. We are hoping that in the course of the week we should get feedback from them.
Okay, but before I let you go, I'm afraid I would have to end the interview shortly. But you're saying that if the Civil Aviation Authority is not checked, we could record more air disasters.
And probably more fatal.
Okay.
More fatal. We have asked the Parliamentary Select Committees on Transportation, Defense and Interior to come in and ensure that the right thing is done.
All right. Thank you very much, Nana Yaw Akwada. We have to leave it there. He's the director of the Bureau of Public Safety, and he was talking about the Civil Aviation Authority blaming a recent Starbow airline incident on poor management and bad weather. Let's move on to other stories. The Eastern Region Police have rearrested one of the Kwabena jail escapees. The suspect, identified as Emmanuel Kote, was arrested at Isikaso. Let's go to the phone and talk to ASP Ebenezer Tete, who is the PRO for the Eastern Regional Command. All right, unfortunately, we don't have the police commander on the line, but let's talk to Kojo Ansah, who's our regional correspondent. Kojo, thank you for joining us this evening. Tell us, where exactly was this man rearrested, and what details have the police released so far?
Okay, Nanaba, this suspect or escapee, Emmanuel Kote, was arrested yesterday at Asikesu, a community which is near Asamankasi in the Eastern Region here. He was arrested by the police and was subsequently sent to the regional police headquarters. We've been told by the police that has been handed over to Kwabena police for further investigations. If you will recall, this is the second time or the second escapee in which who was involved in jailbreak at Kwabena, who has been arrested in the Eastern Region here. The first escapee was arrested some months ago at Achembego in the Pantakwa district. The Eastern Region, as we've been told by the police, has become sort of safe haven for suspects who commit crime in Greater Accra and Central Region. So they come to the Eastern Region to hide out. So the police are saying that they are strategizing to ensure that they rid off the region from all these criminals.
Okay. Now, you say he was arrested in Isikaso in the Eastern Region, but where was he hiding? Was it in a residential area, in the bush? Did the police provide that detail?
These details have not been provided by the police because they're saying that it's a security issue. So they're conducting further investigation because obviously they need to do certain investigations to ensure that those people who were involved in helping this escapee to hide in the community to also be investigated. So these details have not been provided by the Eastern Regional Police Command.
Okay, and finally, with this rearrest, has the police, well, you say they haven't provided too much information, but of course these people were aided by certain individuals outside the prison, the police station. What is the police saying so far about it, if they have said anything at all?
As I rightly said, the PRO, ASP is not forthcoming with detailed information about this, but I get the sense that he was hiding in the community. Persons they believe aided him to hide in this community. So he says all these are under investigation, and further information about this will be provided to the media in due course.
All right, thank you very much, Kojo Ansah, for joining us on the phone from the Eastern region, where the police there have rearrested one of the escapees of the Kwabenya cell. Lives of residents of Domiabra are at risk because of the state of their road. Domiabra is a rural community in Pokrasi and is characterized by dusty, pothole-ridden roads, which creates the perfect recipe for accidents. The residents are therefore calling on government to immediately fix their roads.
Domiabra has one major road. This road connects commuters from Tichakope to Amasaman and other neighboring towns. However, the terrible state of the road makes commuting a nightmare. It is further narrowed by erosion, which has eaten away the edges, leaving behind a gaping hole. Sometime in 2016, the government of the day made an attempt to fix the road, but that was not to see the light of day. The dusty nature of the road leaves its mark on the items sold at this shop. The owner is faced with the task of cleaning her items powdered with the red soil.
I feel to a very mujas cry, messy bia for man cry one or say you who could be crying and once a jat one and foot to
Bad road is not the only headache of this community. Domiabra has no potable water source. Villagers rely on a borehole and this small stream called Insakina. The bigger your household, the harder it is to have access to water.
I came in a pipe of the only say we have a crumada. This is a crumada, my attorney. Because a very be about Oko, a very be about Oko. You room will be our young free. Send your bay of being in so crowd, but Copo Quasi. I cause a prime baker, my bed 3 hours, and so crying. Young have been taught. Ned be a quama, most so I taught at the Adriane.
Domiabra, with a population of more than 600 residents, have very few toilets in their homes. The only public toilet there was built by an individual who makes a business out of it. Those who cannot afford to pay the 50 pesos charge resort to open defecation.
How come here the factories are poor? There's nothing here. Because if you want to go private, you do go bush and so on. They are used to the bush. See? They are used to the bush. And then some few people are coming, and then some people are going to bush.
When push comes to shove, members of this community, Domiabra, will choose to boycott the 2020 elections if government fails to come to their aid.
Well, these stories are all too familiar and you wonder whenever will these problems be fixed. Remember that at 7 o'clock we are bringing you Newsroom Diaries, where reporters go behind the scenes to tell us exactly what happened while they were on location, trying to piece together the stories for viewers. Now let's take a look at another story. In a business that demands clear vision due to the use of a potentially harmful tool, that's the cutlass, but 52-year-old man would not allow his visual impairment to stop him from fending for himself. Our correspondent in the Eastern region, Kojo Ansah, tells the story of the blind coconut seller, in case you missed it yesterday.
I call him the Ikuapem Wonder Blind Coconut Seller. 52-year-old Nyadu Kwesi Samuel is visually impaired, but has defied the odds to make a living for himself. A business which involves the use of sharp cutlasses demands precision to avoid injuries. But Samik gets his spots right despite his sight problem. The former student of Ekropon School for the Blind and Ekuapeman Senior High School has for the past decade ventured into coconut selling business to take care of his wife and 7 children. He does not only sell the coconut fruits, he climbs to harvest the fruits himself.
Beginning, when I started this work, I was going to buy the coconut from the adults near Pretoria. And when I went, we are many. So when the coconut, when the vehicle comes, we are running for it. And one day, when I went there, I went for coconut in the vehicle. And a certain man in it exhorting me. And since then, I really get a good.
He tells GH1 News his disability gives him competitive advantage. Many consumers prefer to buy from him out of sympathy. That, he says, is booming his business.
People are interested for being as a visual impaired selling the coconuts. So they buy anyway. They buy from me.
However, according to Kwesi Nyadu, despite the seeming good news, he faces several challenges, including transportation, difficulty in getting coconut fruits from owners in surrounding villages due to unfair competition. He is appealing to philanthropists to support him with tricycle to enable him convey coconut fruits from the villages to Ekropon to sell.
This work, in fact, is tedious work, and I need many things to do to help you to do the work. And I'm not getting it, but I hope by God's grace or through this station I'll get something from it.
Some customers of Nyadu had this to say. Mahelana, headmaster of the Ekropon School for the Blind, says she is not surprised about the efforts of Nyadu because students are oriented and trained to push harder in life.
And I can see very well, but I cannot cut or peel coconuts with such precision. Anyway, we always do get results. So if you're touched by that story, all he needs is a tricycle to help him cart his goods. So if you can, please feel free to locate us here in Northridge at the Platinum Place to help the 52-year-old coconut seller. Now, let's do some entertainment news, because shortly after rumors that Stonebwoy, who was signed onto the Xylophone Media record label last year, was leaving the label, were debunked by the PRO. It looks like the feud has even worsened. Reports reaching us suggest that there were some firing of gunshots at the Champs Bar last night, where Stonebwoy was billed to perform at Kelvin Boy's mini concert at the hotel, when some members of the Xylophone team invaded the area to take away his Mercedes-Benz. Reps from both teams have remained tight-lipped on the issue, but a lot of people have been excited about the entrance of Xylophone Media, because the story that has been making rounds is that most of the time people in the arts are abandoned and they're not treated properly. But let's go to the phone and talk to William Asiedu, who's the president of the Arts and Tourism Writers Association of Ghana. Thank you for joining us, William Asiedu. I know you monitor the entertainment and the creative arts sector a lot. How are you taking this particular story?
I'm very sad, because over the last 20 years, we've had people come in, as Xylophone has done. We're talking about Agicos, goodies, rap music, and one way or the other, something takes them out, and it's always not very pleasant what takes them out. So that's what I can say for now for your question. Now into the details, I don't know. I'm very, 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 very sad. I mean, I thought the Xylophone entry was going to give us something more positive than what we've had in the past. What is happening now, I'm looking at it as basic business, you know. Business has to do with people, it has to do with strategy, it has to do with execution and operations. Looking at the strategy of Xylophone, I think there's not been much negative, comments on that. When it comes to their execution and operations, there's been some quite, disquiet there. And the major problem is the people management out there. And it's always this problem, because creative people are very, very difficult to handle. Even with our association, it took us about 10 years to settle down and go to the polls, because first of all, they don't have time and everybody feels as a star. And so I thought that Xylophone could go back and read through the literature in terms of the history of the industry and see some of the big labels that came and what caused their demise over the years.
Okay.
But I don't think that has been done, and that's why we're losing it. So basically that's what I was saying for now.
Now, on this issue of shots being fired last night at the Champs Bar, well, these are just reports we're picking up and they have not been confirmed yet. So there's one side saying that if you're leaving the label, you need to return the car. And there's another side that says that, well, it was part of the package. But in all instances, when Xylophone has signed on any artiste, the details of the package is always kept, away from the public's eye and the public's ear. Would you say that if more information was released, it will help us to shape the story very well going forward and what to demand for our artists and the handlers of the record labels?
Yeah, well, I think they have the right to keep it away from the public. That I personally think they have that right.
Okay.
Because it's a business and it's a contract, and their lawyers were there when they were signing the contract, and I'm sure they read the details of the contract. So it is not, for me, when I was employed by my employers, I don't think my details and the details of my contract was put outside.
Right.
So for that, I would say the public can, if you are a professional journalist and you want to know, you can go around and get it.
Okay. Now, in answering that, just a few seconds, can you tell us if having Stonebwoy and Shatta Wale on the same label was bound to cause problems?
No, because you see, I see Xylophone Media as a professional institution or entity, and I see the two individuals as professionals too. So I don't see how that could be a problem. If the orientation was right, and if the contracts were right, and their lawyers were abreast of whatever is happening in the industry, and they advise their clients very well, I don't see why that should be a problem.
Okay.
I mean, you go to companies and there are big boys out there, and they work.
All right.
That's why I'm getting excited about the whole thing. I don't see why that should be a problem. You know, and over the years, you've had issues with contracts. You go to the pageants, there are issues that it's about contracts. You go to music labels, there are issues about contracts. So this is where we, the arts writers, the Tourism Writers Association, I think that we should look at these areas and try to get the professionals outside the industry to come and educate us and empower us.
Thank you very much, William. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, William Mesiedu is the president of the Art and Tourism Writers Association of Ghana. Coming up now is some international news. Right, and we understand that the election in Sierra Leone is just too close to call. Let's go to the phone and talk to Eric Kawa. He's a journalist in Sierra Leone. Thank you for joining us all the way from Sierra Leone. Eric, what is the latest?
Okay, Nanaba, good evening and good evening to all viewers in Ghana. The latest right now is that the National Electoral Commissioner has announced another 25% of the results, now resulting to 75% of results so far gathered from different polling centers across the country. And in this release that is made a few hours from now or before now, shows that the main opposition leader, retired Brigadier Julius Maada Bio, is taking the lead, followed there by the leader of the incumbent party, All People's Congress Party. And also we see the National Grand Coalition of Dr. Kande Kola-Yumkela also making a very good impression and very great headways in different parts of the country.
All right. Thank you very much, Eric Kawa, journalist in Sierra Leone, updating us on the latest on the Sierra Leone elections. Now, timeline. We'll be back next week, Saturday. But coming up right now is Newsroom Diaries, featuring journalists who this week carried some of the big stories on our network. Alice Ayete, the award-winning journalist, is the presenter. Thank you for joining me on the news. Have a good night. Remember, after Newsroom Diaries, Bola Ray will be next with Revealed. Have a good night.
Is the second edition of Newsroom Diaries, where we give you the opportunity to see the kind of things you will never ever see on our news. So many things happen when journalists go out to bring you those beautiful and interesting stories you see each day. But do you know what really goes into those stories? At times we make so many mistakes, we fall, we fight, we do so many things that we censor out of the news. But today we want to be generous enough to let you see what really goes on, bringing those stories to you. Let's go into the newsroom to speak to the people behind those beautiful stories that you always see on the news. Follow me, let's go.
stairs of these buildings could have been better if I had rails to hold on to. But these two are absent.
Although the Persons with Disability Act mandates all public places to be made accessible to the needs of persons with disabilities, this directive seems to have fallen on deaf ears, and persons with disabilities, just like me, continue to suffer in accessing places like this.
So how challenging was it getting those shots or visuals from the ministries? They won't allow you to take. Did you steal visuals?
I don't know. I think if you're a good cameraman or you're very particular about visuals, you will know that all the shots were stolen, because no one would allow us film any shots from their end. Yeah, they know the place is not friendly, so they won't allow themselves to be in the news. So we had to steal. We had to be creative with it. There were points where I think there was a place we went to, SIC. Yeah, we went there. They have these 3 stairs, so we used the left side. I climbed up, and then when I was coming down, all of a sudden, a security man came from inside the building and was like, "Madam, what's happening?" And I was like, "Oh, we are coming inside to see you people." And he said, "So why are you filming?" And we're like, "Oh, let me get something from the car and then we'll be back." And that was it. We just ran away.
But why did you run away? You could have just told him, or he wouldn't have allowed you.
He wouldn't have.
That means you always steal shots on location.
Most of the time I do.
Most of the time you do.
Because, okay, it depends. It depends. Some of them, when I'm so sure, we go there, we ask permission, and they still don't allow us. When I'm just coming out, I'll be like, "Okay, please, just take me here from afar and let's go."
And I was told you one day fell during one of those shoots.
Yeah.
What happened?
I was climbing the stairs, and it was quite steep. You know, I was telling myself that, oh, okay, I think it doesn't matter. Even if I fall, it's part of the shoot. But it wasn't intentional. I was coming down, the step was too steep, so I just fell. Exactly.
Honestly, if I was there, I would have laughed at you.
Did you? Knowing you, I know you will laugh.
So, what did your which cameraman did you go with that very day?
That very day, I think Mr. Andy.
Okay.
Yeah.
And he didn't laugh at you.
Oh, the laughing was done afterwards. When the car, yeah.
But how did you feel? How did you feel after that fall?
After that fall, for me, yes, it felt embarrassing at a point. Yes, like, oh, this nice lady falling off this. Yes, but later, I know it's part of the whole job. So we just have to do it.
So, do you enjoy doing this?
Yes, I do. I do, and sometimes I even feel I'm doing it too much.
Why?
I don't know, because I feel, okay, now it's not becoming everything disability is too much. But aside that, I enjoy it. I love doing it.
Ministry of Gender has actually responded as to why their building is hanging in the air.
She filmed one of those times when she was trying to film. Yes,
I think
that was what
we should. Yeah, I seriously, I was expecting a feedback from them. I've been expecting someone to actually come out and ask why you put this on air. But so far, maybe I have to go back, watch the story, check the remarks, the comments, and the ratio. Because I think a conversation should be started around it. Because this is a place that should tell others what to do concerning disability. And if your place is unapproachable, I wonder what will be.
Because you need something for the fall.
Yes.
All right. Okay, thank you. So let's move to Joshua Ayera, who recently did a report on a gay man who is trying to be strict. Mr. Ayera, you recently did a report on a gay man who is trying to become straight.
J. Kwame Rooney is his name, but call him Miss J and you won't be wrong either. The 23-year-old hails from Kumasi in the Ashanti region. As little J, he had dreams of being a superstar.
I wanted to be an actor, then later I wanted to be a musician. Then later I had a dream of being a model. So I took it to the modern industry.
But that was not to happen. Teenage brought along with it its own challenges when his Togolese father and grandfather drove him away from home for what they called his abominable act.
I went there to execute, the main purpose why I was there, just to film him, get to understand his motive. Sometimes I get to mix it his or hers, but not to, because he was displaying a high, effeminate character. His posture, his gesture. You don't get to see this every day on a normal day. And this was someone who was ready and willing to come out to speak.
So it was an opportunity.
Yes.
So after doing this report, I'm sure some people would have thought that you are even promoting this guy and all that he does.
Exactly.
So did you receive any flags from people like your church members or your pastors? Did anybody call you to ask you why you did such a report?
Of course, I did. As journalists, there are so many, several determinants that, informs our decision as to why we choose certain stories. The oddity of the story also counts. So looking at LGBT, at some point it became topical. So I had to pick it up, look for someone who was willing to come out regardless the public, backlash, which he did. And yes, I got some people asking, why are you airing this on TV? And even though it's news, people watch and you're promoting it and you're giving them audience as to also react. But if you look at the storyline, you get to understand that it wasn't exposing the people, the society. It was just to address a situation, and this was someone who needed help, and so it was an opportunity for me.
You also did a beautiful story just recently, I think last week or so, about drinking sports.
Exactly. Yeah.
That have sprung up in many of our lorry stations.
Mundane activity that requires a tactful approach, physical and mental abilities for safety, coupled with a sound composure. The requisite measures to adopt in order to avoid accident on the roads are to continuously observe the road around you, anticipate what may happen that could be a risk to you and other road users, and respond by taking appropriate quick step or action before the risk increases. A driver's attitude on the road determines his safety and others around. Alcohol and drugs are among the most causes of fatal road accidents on our roads. The easy accessibility of alcoholic beverage at the respective lorry stations seem to be the determinant of the chances of recording road accidents even on a very good road.
How did you, come about this idea that necessitated the story in the first place?
Okay, the story was hatched in the newsroom, and so it was imperative to get someone to work on the story, and I was privileged enough to have been called by the assignment editor to pick up that story, and I'd had such a story idea before, so it was an opportunity to pick up. And so when we talk of fatal road accidents and the likes, there's so many variables that string to this particular phenomenon, and so I grew interest. I grew some level of interest for the story. I had to follow up, go to the Road Safety Commission, go to the GPRTU, AMA as well, and then visit some of the lorry stations in some selected stations in the capital, like Tema Station, Circle, the Kanishi Station, the Accra Station, and the likes. There were some challenges. We did not psych ourselves for any unforeseen events. For instance, we got to some of the drinking spots and we were somehow attacked. It started verbally, and then some physical aspect came in, but we did not film that because we came in, according to them, unannounced, and we did not inform them, and so they were very much apprehensive. Having the camera on them and all of that. And these are people who otherwise known in societies as hooligans, especially some of the places we went to, and so
these are drivers.
A number of them, but they claim they had closed for the day, but you can't tell. whether or not they are closed for the day, because some of them would not just walk home. They will
definitely drive back home,
and so they will pick people. But the story was just to also draw attention and give much attention to drinking spots growing or gaining the ascendancy in our lorry stations, and so it was very important to follow up on that story.
Okay, I also saw some two men in the I don't know whether they were also drivers, and they were drinking. They were taking some shots of akpeteshi, and you were with them. Did you also drink just to lure them into, getting into your shots?
Oh, of course not. But then we had to come up with something just to get them inside and just to also have them entertain us in such an environment. And so I went in there. I think a few days after that day the nation was supposed to celebrate or to mark the Independence Day. So I thought it was that, okay, why don't I go in there, ask them about the Independence Day and whether or not Ghana was prepared to celebrate something to the majority. We're not sure if it was even worth celebrating. And I got them talking, and so that was when a few walked in, to charge up, for the day. And so as you fuel your car, you get yourself activated for the day. So they needed to fuel themselves. So they came, regardless the size of the camera and then the microphone and some people. They were just, gulping some shots, one thought.
Okay, but we were told you took some shots at the lorry station.
Yes, I took a shot with my cameraman.
No, I mean akpeteshi shots.
Akpeteshi shots?
You took shots.
Oh, wow.
Almost 2 shots.
Oh, wow. I didn't know.
I didn't know you took that.
Oh, no, I didn't. But I had to, the story was just to get more pictures to project what we were talking. So we just had to, oversee these things and then take the shots that we needed. And eventually,
you have to go through a lot just to get the people. Yes, you have to let them feel that you are with them. You are just like them.
So, but in this particular case, please, I did not take any application.
This is false. Okay, I've just spotted Jemima in our first edition. I heard Eben, the cameraman who is filming this particular episode right now, complain about how Jemima gives them a lot of pressure. Why have you been doing that to us? By the way, she's the one who ensures that we have all our cameras and cars and everything that we need for our various assignments. So tell us.
Not in peace, but in pieces.
Not in peace, but in pieces. Why? Why have you been doing that to us?
Okay, well, as you know, right, with everything that you do, you get a challenge. But I always go to Eben, the cameraman, because most of the time they wait for me to come there. And as a matter of fact, news is time bound. So any minute you waste wherever you are, we are going to lose. We need stories for newsroom, news updates, and news tonight.
Hey, pressure woman.
Pressure woman. I give you pressure.
Oh, pressure woman.
You are sort of come to the High Court. Judge Antoine is here.
So if you have been giving them pressure, why have you been complaining when I also give you pressure? Why haven't you been giving me camera until 12? Until after 12?
No, it's because of the time you get in. You get it.
Sometimes I can get here at 8. You were intentionally not giving me camera.
Give me a critical example.
Like the last time I wanted to date. I don't have a date. I can't use my mind as an ally.
Pressure woman.
You see, before the two of them kill themselves, let's just move to Lancelot Boateng, who is the reigning champion if it comes to doing piece to camera or stand-uppers. His recent piece to camera is making waves everywhere. He was overwhelmed by something he couldn't describe. Lancelot, please stop writing. We know you are not writing anything. You are not doing anything. What happened to that your piece to camera?
I can't even, I can't even stand the stench emanating from the
this place. That aside, the place is not fenced, and anybody at all can fall into the drainage.
You guys wouldn't stop amusing me. You feel what I did is something funny, but in fact it's not like you people say. What you saw on screen actually, it's something real. It's something I couldn't bear. You know, at the time I was at the scene or on the beat.
Are you sure it was the stench, or you just didn't know what to say?
It's about the stench analysis. If I ask you to go to this particular beat, stay there for say 2 minutes, you can't bear the foul stench.
I may even forget my surname.
You may even forget your first name.
So you couldn't even finish your piece to camera. What
yes, point
were
is,
you trying to say?
I finished it, but the point is,
what point were you trying to make in that piece to camera? Because we didn't understand.
I was trying to describe how people living there, the situation people living there are going through. Okay, so even if hold on, let me help you. I couldn't bear the stench. How much more those who sleep there, cook there, are able to endure?
You see,
foul stench.
In the brain region of every human being, you have 3 hemispheres. So at a point in time when you simply cannot bear
philosophical.
No, I'm talking. No, you allow me. At a point in time when you simply cannot bear the stench, that's both. The hemispheres, they get blocked. So anything at all flows. So is it?
Maybe that's his own, philosophy in describing what happened at the Mamobi, so-called gutter. What you saw is not actually a gutter. People are using the place as a place of, convenience, which is not sitting down well with.
So are you sure you didn't step into any?
In fact, I was even cautioned by some of the residents I met there, because when I got into the so-called look-alike valley, they prompted me that I shouldn't go further, because if I go further, I'll be stuck.
You'll be stuck in what?
Yes. So even I was careful, and my cameraman, Francis, was also pushing that, go a bit, and I said, no, Francis, I wouldn't want to take this, risk.
So I hope something is done about this Mamobi filth issue. But before we speak to Samuel, one of the cameramen that we have been working with, let's quickly speak to Aristocrat's father.
We have been debating on whether Ghana Beyond is feasible or not. I strongly believe that it is feasible. Feasible in the sense that we have everything as a country that we need to have. We're talking about the raw materials, talking about gold, talking about bauxite, talking about magnesium, talking about oil. What is it that we don't have in this country?
It's all about leadership. The leadership has a problem with controlling the resources, and that is causing an issue, and it's trickling down into society.
No, fine. There's leadership. I totally agree with you.
What do you see that is going on that is different from before? Number one, when you look at maybe NDC has started building something, NPP will never complete what NDC have started, and same vice versa. My question is, why are we not looking at Ghana as a country and not Ghana as a party?
There's always a start for everything. Now look, guys.
We've been starting for 61 years.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter up. But you see, you shouldn't also lose sight of the fact that when Nkrumah started this, way back in 1957, 61 years ago, when Nkrumah started this, when he stood at the Polo Grounds and said, "We are free forever," he was actually referring to political freedom. I mean, he placed things right. As human as he was, I mean, there were a lot of things that he also didn't get right. But did that actually call for an overthrow? Okay, we have matured in our body politics, which I appreciate, and I don't envisage we going back to the old days or the revolutionary days where we were having coups left, right, back, center. But there's always a start.
Let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question. When you drive or when you come out of your house with your trotro or taxi or whatever it may be, is the road okay to travel on? Some people lose their pregnancies because of the quality of road, and this is in general. Like you can look at cantonments, you can look at airports, and all these so-called high-end areas.
Do you know our problem is corruption? Our problem is corruption, because look, even the potholes that you're talking about, okay, there are people who have been given that power, who have been given that money to rehabilitate.
Don't worry about corruption.
But they are not doing that.
President Buhari is stepping in, and Nigeria will be assisting Ghana on dealing with corruption. So very soon, corruption will be a thing of the past.
Even if it's a thing of the past, what's the first thing that we have to start? Where do we begin? Because nowhere is working in Ghana. Hospitals don't work.
I vehemently
not working. The school system is not working.
Don't forget that the president has also, with the support of Ghanaians, has instituted the office of the special prosecutor, and that is to address the issue. Look, well, this country is losing some $3 million to corruption every year. Okay, and that is why the office of the prosecutor is there. So if Martin Kaiser Ben Samidu is prosecuting people because they are siphoning the country's coffers, all right, we are blocking these leakages and all that. I'm sure.
Okay, I think the president has made it clear that we all need to rally behind him to build a Ghana beyond aid. Let's quickly go to Samoa, who worked on that gay story with Joshua.
So at the end of the day, my job is, get in there and film the thing.
So whether you like it or not,
you do it.
Yeah.
Very, very goddamn it.
Even when snakes are chasing you, you still have to film it.
Go and ask one of your reporters. He went to some place to do some story, and snakes were chasing him in the water. Go and ask him. He was running like Usain Bolt.
And what was the cameraman doing?
You know the funny thing, the cameraman took the lead, so he had to film them crossing the river or a stream coming. So he has already crossed the water already, and the reporters and the crew and the other guys are coming,
joining him,
and they saw the snake in the water coming. Come and see, Ron. At times our job is very hard, but you know how many say you have to close your eyes, close your ears, and move in there and achieve,
like a soldier,
and achieve whatever that is being given to you to do it.
Okay. Right. So, just like you heard someone say, it is very difficult putting all those beautiful stories together, but we have no choice because of you, because we love you. We just have to go through all the pain to just piece together those interesting and insightful stories. So this brings us to the end of today's edition of Newsroom Diaries. Catch us same time next week.
We now have freedom.